On Wednesday, November 15th, 2023, Jenkins LTS 2.426.1 was released. In the show, we're going to be talking about all of the major updates that happened in this release. My name is Darren Pope. I'm a developer advocate for CloudBees, and along with me on the ride for today, we have Mark Waite. Mark, how are you doing?
Great, Darren. Thanks for asking.
Can you believe we are now at a .1?
I actually can. I was the release lead, so this one had real deep connection for me.
You have now birthed a new child.
And there are parts of it that felt like birthing a child. Absolutely. There's an awful lot that happened in this release. It's really cool.
We should talk about some of those things after we get through everything, because I would be curious to know, as the release lead, what was that like? Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, if people are here joining us the first time or they're watching the replay for the first time, they may be familiar with Jenkins, but they may not understand this whole concept of Jenkins LTS. What does that really mean?
Yeah, so a Jenkins long-term support release is an intentionally stable release. Every 12 weeks, the Jenkins project selects a weekly release as the baseline. So every 3 months, a new baseline is selected. And that baseline then is given some time where we look at things to decide which changes should be backported to that baseline, and then it becomes the .1. So 2.426 was chosen as the baseline about 4 or 6 weeks ago. And then backports were made from changes in 427, 428, 429, etc. for specific things to give us 2.426.1. And that .1 then is the basis for 4 weeks later a .2. And 4 weeks after that, or in this case a little bit more than 4 weeks after that, a .3. Each of them designed to keep stability and high functionality.
Oh, and we're going to have to talk about the .3. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Well, and this .3 is is different, and so we owe it to people to let them know there's a little bit of difference on the .3 for 426. Yeah.
Not .2, but just .3. Okay.
Correct.
Do you want to go ahead and just get into it, or do you want to just sort of, are there any high-level items that we should discuss before we just dive into it?
Well, so the big one for me is Java 21 support, but it's also at the very early in the changelog. So if we just get into it, that's great.
Okay. All right. Well, let me go ahead and get the changelog up. Just in case you've never been to the changelog before, jenkins.io, download, and then you'll see two sides. There's the LTS side on the left, and then the weekly on the right. Weeklies are great. Mark runs weeklies all the time. I don't dare touch them. Not for production work, anyway. I'll play with them some, but not production work. All right, changelog. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have to sing the praises of weekly because Jenkins Infra runs weekly for production workloads, and it's very important to us that we know that weekly is healthy as well. But there are people who don't want to upgrade every week, and I understand that. And LTS is a great choice for those who say I'd like to update about once a month instead of every week.
The situation you don't want to get into is having installed a weekly and then not updated it for years.
Right. That's a really bad pattern because it says you didn't understand your own update pattern. Yes.
Correct. That's a different conversation. That's not why we're here today. Anyway, click on the changelog. Mm-hmm. For this release, hey, first things first, there are 28 sunny days happening for this release and only one cloud. That's pretty good.
That is.
For roughly 24 hours, I think. We're just over 24 hours now.
Right. That's a good sign. Good.
This top tag here, I want to call this out because this actually came out in the last release, correct?
Also,
the short container image tags.
It did also.
And we're just enforcing this quite a bit because it is different. And we'll get into the JDKs in a few minutes. Okay, which way do you want to go? We have changes since, which we were talking about backporting things. So anything that happened in 27, 28, 29, these were the items that came from those ahead of 26 back into 26.1.
Yeah, I think let's go to the notable changes since 4.14.3. Not that the backports weren't important. We want to talk about them, but I think in terms of value to our listeners, they'll get more out of these initial changes since 4.14.3 than out of the backports.
Okay. So important security fixes, we've already talked about those in the past, right? because those weren't
Right.
previous LTSs.
Well, and that's, we list them there because they
Yeah.
were in fact part of, they're in fact part of this release. But if you'd already updated to the security fixes in previous releases, you already got these. So this is not a major security thing. This is just, yes, we brought them in here as well.
Okay, let's go to this next big one. Supporting Java 21 in addition to Java 11 and 17.
Right.
So we'll be supporting Java 25 soon, and then Java 29, and then we'll have 70 different Java versions we're supporting, right?
No. But nice thought, right?
No.
That's a terrifying thought to those of us who maintain software, but no. So the idea here is that the Jenkins project is switching its way of approaching Java versions. We're going to a 2+2+2 release model, where what we'll do is every 6 years, Java releases a new, every 2 years, Java delivers a new LTS. 21 was delivered in this year, 2023. 17 was delivered 2 years previously, in 21 that was, and in 2021. Java 25 will be delivered 2 years in the future, and we'll take each of those, we'll run it for 2 years. Then, after 2 years, we'll make it the minimum required Java version for 2 years. Then we'll stop supporting it. And so this addition of Java 21 is the beginning of our journey.
And in case you fell asleep while Mark was trying to explain the 2+2+2+2+2 thing, there's only three twos. There is a blog post on Jenkins.io called Introducing the, not surprisingly, 2+2+2 Java Support Plan. And the picture is worth more than 10,000 words.
Yeah.
So the key part to look at here, red is Jenkins, specifically Jenkins LTS. We can get into a whole conversation about how things come into weeklies. We're not going to do that.
Right.
So we look at that, but then notice how Jenkins appears to be, because it is, inside of the supported LTSs of each of these versions. Notice it doesn't extend beyond those endpoints. Mark, do you want to get into that at all?
Yeah, no, I think we should get into it. So what we see here is the red bar, Java 11 supported in Jenkins LTS, is just slightly less than the length of the Java 11 supported in Eclipse Temurin LTS. That top bar, right? That's rather exceptional. We're going to allow you to support running Jenkins all the way almost to the end of life of Java 11. But by October of 2024, Java 11 will end of life, and now it's Java 17. But now you see the next one down, Java 17 supported, and its support in the Jenkins project ends about 2 years prior to the end of life of Java 17. So we'll support only for 4 years, and a little less than 4, and then Java 21 gets us really there. We start supporting it, and about 4 years later, it drops off the list. Now, if you go further down on this page, we see some of the alternatives, right? And Basil did a great job on this, on the alternatives. Here was the give me everything all the time alternative. We said, no, we cannot continually support 3 Java LTS releases all the time. That's more than the Jenkins community can do. So that was, then the next one was, oh, but what about the plugin maintainers like Mark Waite, who really would like to think about only one Java LTS? And that's this next graph, or next picture that says, we'll just cut everybody off. And the answer is our large scale customers just can't tolerate this. So we struck a compromise. And the compromise is this 4 years of support a specific Java version and drop it after 4 years.
Okay. Again, a whole big blog post on this.
Right.
So you can sit down with your favorite beverage and take it, read it,
Right.
and then start planning your upgrades. Because here's the key point. Let's sort of go back to the top to where there's the red line in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That red line, that red vertical bar is basically now. It's right. I mean, okay, we're already into the red bar.
It's close enough to now to be now.
Right. So the key point is, looking at that top bar, if you're still running your Jenkins LTS controller on Java 11, you've got roughly 11 months, correct?
That's correct. Right.
The end of October, of 2024.
It's off the list. And,
It's gone.
and the Jenkins project very wisely and correctly says we will not support Jenkins on a JDK that the upstream JDK provider does not support. Sorry,
Right.
that just doesn't work for us. Same thing as a rule for our operating systems. If the upstream operating system provider does not support it, we don't support it. So
We'll
yeah.
revisit that one too in a minute. And I said the end of October. Let's be clear. It's going to be whatever version and however the dates fall out. So it could be sometime in October. It could be sometime in November, right? Because we haven't projected out the release dates through that point yet, or have we?
Oddly enough, we have projected them,
Oh, okay.
and the release date for the Java 17 becomes real is October 30, 2024.
There you go.
So we got lucky, but then 2 years later, we don't get as lucky. It's a different date. So we've done the date projections, and it looks good for October being the end of life of Java in the Java 11 in the Jenkins project.
See, it's just an early Halloween present for next year. That's the way you have to think about it. Okay. Let's go and go back to the changelog. Anything else you want to talk about 2+2+2?
No, this is great.
Okay.
Thanks, Darren, for letting us talk about that.
Okay, the next one was remove the outdated prototype.js library.
Yeah, so special thanks to Tim Jacome, to Basil Crow, to so many others. Prototype.js, when it was created in 2005, was kind of a really cool JavaScript library. It was originally created for Ruby on Rails and gave some really powerful capabilities to the JavaScript world running inside browsers. Jenkins embedded it and used it, and we've been very pleased with the results we got from it. But Prototype.js stopped active development about 12 or 13 years ago, and we ended up running a forked version of the library, and it became used in all sorts of places all over Jenkins. Ultimately, to remove the library, now you can imagine a 13-year-old JavaScript library is multiple generations out of date, right? The JavaScript, everything's much newer than that. So to remove it, we had to do 50 plus plugins had to have changes in order to get rid of prototype. Once they were changed, then we removed it from Jenkins core. And now we've shipped a version of Jenkins that does not include this JavaScript library. Removing code is really a lot of work.
You said years of JavaScript changes. How about 3 days of JavaScript changes and things have changed?
Right, exactly. JavaScript is a very dynamic world, right? It's a very, very busy world. And 13-year-old JavaScript code is not where you want to be.
No.
And Prototype was especially challenging because it modified certain behaviors of JavaScript, the language, that got in the way of other more modern JavaScript frameworks. So we really wanted to get rid of this thing.
Yep. Again, a separate blog post for this. This came out in May of 2023, and it goes through all the process. Now, again, this was written before probably the majority of the work had been done, or they were probably at 50% in May. Would you think?
I wouldn't. I think there was still a great bucket of work to be done.
Right.
But Basil had done enough work by this point. Basil and Tim both had done enough work to understand the thing well enough to write about it.
Yep. So there's a blog post if you need to understand that. Now, here's the key part. Do you want to go ahead and go to the upgrade guide for this one specifically, since we're talking about it?
Let's do.
So in case you didn't know, Mark, you know this, but in case people watching don't know this, there's also an upgrade guide. And you should, especially on .1s, you really need to read the upgrade guides. You should read them every time, but let's talk about it here specifically. You'll see a long stack right now. We're just talking about 426.1. We'll revisit the Java one later. So prototypes removed, gone. It's been gone in the weekly since 426. It's now gone in the LTS. Mm-hmm. These numbers are quite high to me. So there's a tracking spreadsheet if you want to take a look at it. There are several plugins with over 800 installs that have not removed prototype. So if you are one of these most fortunate people that is running one of these 5 plugins and you upgrade to 426.1, and if you're using these plugins, it's going to be a bad day.
Well,
right?
and you need to understand, this is the JavaScript portion.
Right.
Therefore, it's touching the user interface. The back-end functionality won't be harmed for them, right? They'll still continue to communicate.
Yeah.
But for instance, you may lose the ability to configure them. You may lose the ability to correctly define their settings from your web browser. And that's obnoxious. Now, the challenge here is we've reached out to the providers who own these plugins and asked them, hey, please fix. Unfortunately, we didn't get the response we wanted. We just couldn't wait any longer. It was time. After 6 months of working on this project, we shipped without them.
Now, there are also other plugins under 700 installs
Right.
that all have issues too. So it's not just these 5 that have issues still. There are
Correct.
numerous that still. Do you know the round number?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I do not.
Okay.
We could dig it out, but I don't.
Yeah. If you're interested in knowing what that number is, go to the tracking sheet or take a look at the Epic.
Exactly.
And right now we're just too lazy to go look. We'll just say I'm too lazy to go look.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So prototype's a big deal. There's also talking about Java 21. It was interesting because now if you had been playing around with it, because there had been versions out there before. The dash preview is gone.
Right.
For both AMD and ARM. Good. And we'll take a look at, do you want to go ahead and take a look at the images since we're,
Sure.
actually no, I want to hold that for a second because we'll visit this when we go take a look at it because there's 2 stories out on Docker Hub that we need to sort of cover.
Okay.
Okay. So, and
The moral of this story, that upgrade guide story, is if you were using Java 21 preview images, you need to change the name of the tag you're using now. Instead of -JDK21-preview, please use -JDK21.
if you're on AMD, Intel, or ARM-based architectures. If you're not on those, if you're still on a different architecture, then preview is still in play.
Correct.
Based on
That's
that.
right.
So, okay. Let's go ahead and go back. So the next one was stop delivering. This is what we're going to get to. Stop delivering CentOS 7 container images. You said container images. I'm so proud of you. As part of the end of support for RHEL 7 and its derivatives. So we knew this has been a long time coming. It's just now that those images are no longer being shipped. Period. For CentOS 7, correct?
Correct. So we announced back in May that we would drop support for Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 and its derivatives in November of 2023. And we've done that now. Now that's a little earlier than the end of life of Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7. It will end life in public support June 30th of 2024, but there are so many problems associated with staying on that old Linux version. It's a very popular version, but boy, does it have old tools on it.
So
yes.
So people may look at this and go like, well, wait a minute, I thought you said you're not doing this anymore. Well, if you take a look at this was 9 days ago.
Right.
So it was this week.
Exactly. In the world of container images, 9 days ago could be eternity, right? We generate new container images pretty much every week, and on an LTS we generate them immediately. So now if you switch your search instead and look for
That's
JD,
it.
yeah, there you go. The CentOS 7 last LTS was a month ago, and it will not be updated.
Yep.
So don't use that container image. You'll be much happier using something other. Now, I don't know, I still don't know why people would have ever chosen this container image in the first place or why we created it, but that's a different problem, Darren.
Do you have a few hours? We can talk about this for a few hours.
Right.
But anyway, so that's gone. And then going back to what we saw in the upgrade guide, if you were looking at JDK 21, so since we're here, let's go ahead and just double check it, JDK 21. Right. So we see that we had preview for this. Oh, that's interesting.
Right. So it's expected that we generate preview images for all containers. In addition, now go back up to preview.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Notice the +2 more underneath on the preview image. You expand that and you see.
Oh, I lost it. Oh, there we go. Here, hang on. There we go.
So notice that it shows PowerPC 64, System 390, and ARM v7. So for preview containers, we actually deliver all of the architectures.
So
And
I'm,
we-
co-
Go
but
ahead.
here's my question. Based on what we just saw in the upgrade guide, I would have expected to have not seen a dash preview for the ARM and AMD 64 ones.
Right, and it's much more pain for us to remove the build process for one of these than it is to just leave it in there.
So what you're saying is if I do this, because I haven't obviously tested this out. Okay, we're talking about JavaScript problems. I'm not going to call anybody out, but that's painful. Okay, yes, so there we go. So if I take a look at, well, that's still preview.
No, so
There
if you
we go.
scroll down,
There it is.
right there you go. You get the LTS JDK 21 with
Yep.
only two platforms, AMD
Correct.
64 and ARM 64.
And this is a key point. Was that there as well in the upgrade guide? Let's see. Yes, you did say ARM 64.
Right.
Because when I started taking a look at this, I was thinking, get to the right. Really? Wow.
Yeah, okay, life's not always perfect when you try to do search inside the Docker Hub webpage.
That's okay. Everything will be fine. It's fine. It's all fine. Because I saw ARM v7,
Right.
and I'm
the
thinking,
preview-
oh, but we're not. ARM 64 is the only thing we have right now, which is fine.
Correct, and
It's fine.
and the barrier there actually is we won't deliver something in non-preview until Eclipse Temurin has delivered a GA version of the JDK for that platform.
Right.
And they won't deliver a GA until they've passed their full test verification
suite.
suite.
Yep. Okay. So normally we're done by this time, and we're only 3 in.
Right.
This is a big. I was looking at the notes and thinking, okay, this is not that big of a deal. And the more I get into it, it's like, no, this is a pretty big deal.
Right.
Replace browser confirmation with modal dialogues in many places.
Right, and I'm so grateful to Marcus Winter for his work on this. So if you bring up 2.4.14.3, you see that we've got a job there, the test job. Let's delete that job, Darren. Okay, notice the dialog. It's a browser pop-up. It says cancel or OK. All right. Now let's do the same thing in 2.426.3. Okay, now that feels like modern web page. So very nice, and Marcus did a great job on that. Very, very grateful for what he did.
So that goes form dialogues, modals, whatever. There's a lot. Well, actually, this is actually adding an API for this. Now, what does that mean?
Right, so that means that plugin maintainers can actually use this now, right? So it's not just a feature of core. Plugin maintainers can use it and benefit from it.
Got it. Okay. Updates to various UI elements. Okay. Add appearance system configuration page.
Yeah, and this one is the work of Tim Jacome, and he did a great thing here. So show 2.426.3,
Okay.
and in Manage Jenkins, there's now an entry for appearance. And
Well,
there-
sort of. Sort of.
Okay, sort of. Go ahead, clarify. I like that. That clarifies good.
Because it's not there if you install it using suggested plugins.
Correct.
You
right.
have to go, if you want to use appearance, you have to first install, what I did is I installed Dark Theme, which brought along the plugin, which is, what was the plugin name? I don't even remember.
Theme Manager. So
Theme Manager.
Dark Theme has a dependency on Theme Manager, and Theme
Right.
Manager, so exactly. If you choose to install one of the themes, you'll get this appearance choice. If you don't choose to install a theme, you won't see it.
Right. So once you get it, then you can select a theme.
Yeah, exactly.
And off you go. Okay. That's it? That's all we need to show?
That's it.
Do I dare
It's-
take it dark?
Sure, temporarily, because you can switch back. Make it dark. And now switch back to default. And it's that simple, and it's really a beautiful thing that Tim has done for us. For people who want dark, here's dark.
It makes my skin look better when it's dark. When it's bright, my skin blows out. That's just not good. Okay. Okay, next. Performance optimizations. That's always a
Yeah,
good thing.
users won't see that, and so we're happy that, yes, it's great, we like it.
Prevent incorrect read resolve from breaking agent label parsing. Now, here's the big deal about this for people watching. This is a big red button or a big red identifier.
Right.
This was a big bug?
It was a big bug, and what happened was it caused problems for some of the, if I remember, it was the cloud plugins, and one or more of the cloud plugins were broken by this change. So this is a major bug fix to make sure that those cloud plugins don't have problems.
Okay. Next up, oh, by the way, we didn't get into this. If you don't know the legend, we can see purple, we can see red. That legend is at the very top.
Right.
So that last one we just looked at, major bug fix. But now we're getting into the enhancements. We'll call it we had big enhancements. So here's the other thing to think about when you take a look at the changelog. Top to bottom, mark if you did your job correctly, in this case, since you're a release lead, I imagine is going to be majors and then not majors.
That's correct.
That's what you strive to do. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get into that part of that. Automate the display of an administrative monitor when approaching Java end-of-life dates. 2 + 2 + 2, anyone?
Yes, well, and show it. You've got to show it. It was already on screen for us. Go back to 2.426.1, and let's look at Manage Jenkins.
I have to get there again. There we go. And I'll leave the page. Thank you. This is live. This is not tape.
Absolutely.
Java 11 end of life. But now that you know the date, I would probably wait until after the .3 just to make sure. We'll talk more about the .3 again in a minute. On or after September 30th, 2024, which is correct.
It is.
Now, what will happen with the release after that point if you're still starting up the service or just doing a java-jar war file?
It will tell you bluntly, sorry, I require Java 17 and will not start. So users need to begin their process, begin their planning for their transition to Java 17.
If you haven't started doing it yet, yes.
Right. If you're not already on Java 17, now is the time to begin your plan.
Or you do have the option.
Go to 21.
You could go with Jenkins LTS, you could go to 21. If you're on
That's
11
correct.
and you want to go straight to 21, that is an option for you.
It is, and it's an excellent option. Java 21 has been running really well for me for the last month plus with 50 agents across multiple operating systems and multiple variants, so it's doing quite well.
The key point there, though, is Jenkins Weekly or Jenkins LTS only. If you're a CloudBees customer, you'll be hearing more.
Right.
Different conversation. Okay. We don't need to ignore that, but actually we do want to show this. Let's say I'm a very boneheaded Jenkins administrator.
No. Let's not say that. Let's say differently. You are one of 5 or 6 people who manage Jenkins in your organization, and you all are allowed to manage it, because it's really when 5 or 6 people manage it, and that was how it was at least in places I'd worked previously. There were multiple of us who all had permissions. Now tell your story, Darren.
And I'm the boneheaded one. So I just go in and click on ignore. So now it's gone. And if Mark was to come in and log in on this controller, guess what? He would see the same thing I'm seeing right now. Nothing.
Right, which is nothing. Which is I don't know now that Java 11 is no longer going to be supported in a year. Right.
So if you've never double-checked your administrative monitors, that's probably a good thing to do probably once a quarter.
Right.
Maybe something. I've actually never really thought about what the right cadence on that is. But there's an administrative monitors configuration, the drop-down. I don't like the drop-down. It should just be there. I know why we do it, but okay. And then if we go down, the one that I just dismissed or ignored was recommended Java version. Now, was this the same monitor that we had in place for 8 to 11?
No. It's
Okay. It's a
we've
new one.
actually,
Okay.
Basil Crow submitted a pull request that generalized it so that we can use the same monitor for 21,
Okay.
for 17, and eventually for 25.
So for this, from this point forward, we'll just reuse this one.
Exactly. Right.
Okay. So in theory, no, we should only ever have one aging out at a time.
Correct.
Is that completely true?
I
Different
think
conversation.
I think it's true based on many hours of staring at diagrams of
Okay.
charts.
Anyway, so I check the box, save it, go back to Manage Jenkins, it's back.
Right.
You will be hearing a lot more about Java 11. If you're still running Java 11 for your Jenkins controller, move.
Start your planning. Right.
Start your planning. And
It's-
take your pick.
You've got as
11
much
months.
as 11 months to do it, but
Yeah.
you've got to get it done in those 11 months,
Yes. Or just never upgrade again.
which is a terrible choice because then when a vulnerability is published, you don't get to fix the vulnerability.
It's a choice. It's just
Yes,
not
it is.
a
It's
wise
a terrible
choice.
choice. Right. Exactly.
What was which Indiana Jones was it to where you have chosen wisely?
Yes.
That's where this one is. Okay.
Good.
Remove system. I always call it System 5. I know that's not true. It's System V.
No. It is
System
System
5.
5.
Okay.
It is, you say it correctly. It's System 5.
All right. From the RPM-based installers. No, wait a minute. I thought those had been gone all along.
Right. And so this is a nice step that a community contributor came in and helped with some cleanup. So when we switched from System 5 based in it to System D, we made the switch and did not remove all the debris that was left over from System 5. There were still some things for System 5 initialization. This contributor came in and said, hey, I'd like to help with this, and removed some of these lurking things that were still there from System 5. And we're very grateful for that kind of thing. Thanks very much.
Just the final garbage collect came through is what I'm hearing.
Right. And now it does have a real change, right? So RPM users that had relied on this log rotate configuration out of the box will now need to define a log rotate configuration for themselves.
Right. A nicer 404 page. I saw this one and just sort of glossed over it. I haven't tested it. Do we dare try it live?
Sure, why not?
Why not? Okay, let's go to, let's see, that.
Okay.
It's nicer.
All right.
Okay. Why is it nicer? I'm trying to figure out why it's nicer.
Yeah, go to go to 414.3 and let's see what
well, that
it
would make
is.
too much sense, right? I shouldn't do that. I should have. Let's go here. And we'll do.
But now I expect you to type the same exact page because this test won't
Done.
be valid without it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay,
so
so-
that was just the standard stapler. Have a nice day. Versus now we actually have this. Okay.
Right.
Good. All right. It is nicer.
It is.
Minimum required remoting version has been increased from 4.7 to 4.13.
Right. So this is a systematic upgrade. What happens is Jenkins remoting will accept connections from older remoting versions than is bundled with Jenkins itself. That's for compatibility purposes. It's a good thing. But ultimately, we need to not carry the baggage of supporting really old remoting versions. And so what this did is bring us forward so that we're still only supporting remoting versions for about the last year and a half.
Well, and that's called out here in the upgrade guide as well. We're sort of interleaving the upgrade guides.
Right.
That came out 18 months ago.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's and one of the problems we've seen users have is they choose to create an inbound agent with a local copy of an agent.jar file, and then they forget that they have the responsibility to go out periodically and upgrade that agent jar file. And this is sort of a safeguard to help them not have ancient agent jar files sitting around on their inbound agents.
You want an easy way to know how to find out what versions are running? The version, oh help me, what is it? Version nodes,
Yeah, version node monitors plugin.
something like that.
Yeah.
Go install that plugin. I don't have it installed on these examples today. That will show you in your, I'll just go here because I can do this. Oh, I can't go there anymore. It will show you, if you go to your build executor, you'll get 2 new columns on this page. In fact, let me go back to there. You will get 2 new columns showing up on this page. One that has the Java version,
Right.
and it has the agent version.
Correct. Right. And it's a very helpful plugin. It also has the facility to allow an administrator to make the checks more strict and say, if my Java version does not match, I want you to disconnect this agent. because there are some challenges if you have mismatch between agent version and controller version.
And I've done a whole video on that that's
Right.
in this channel somewhere. In fact, I think it's even in the documentation on the Jenkins.io site somewhere. I think it was embedded there at some point. So anyway. Okay, so remoting, keep it updated. Because life can get really weird when you have Java versions and agent versions that are not in line with the Java versions and the agent version that's on the controller.
Right, exactly.
Okay. I looked at this and I just went, words.
Right, okay. Yeah, so what happened was we were using a no guaranteed order of plugins, loading them. I think we were loading them in file system order, whatever the file system gave back to us. And file system order is not necessarily predictable. And the problem that causes then is if there is some difficult to diagnose circumstance where a plugin attempts to load and cannot resolve itself, it has some issue, having that variability means the rest of us can't duplicate the problem. So what this does is help the rest of us that everybody sees the same pattern of failure modes.
Consistency is key.
Yeah, and I think I actually may have a very specific bug that this one has highlighted, but I haven't yet figured out the solution for it.
Okay. Display notice when plugin updates are available or when there are no plugins installed. Okay.
Yeah, so nice UI improvement.
Okay. Remove the tree view option for artifact list.
And again, this one is a nice improvement to improve the behavior of Jenkins and reduce risks in other areas. This thing was not actually that helpful. It's gone.
Okay. Looking at a few of these others, these all are probably all lower. We don't need to
Right.
go through all of these.
Yep.
Oh, this is actually one that I remember from a weekly. Do not create a large number of threads when making numerous HTTP requests. Thread pools are not unbounded, no matter how you want them to, much you want them to be.
Well, exactly, and this one is a quite a valuable thing where you could inadvertently, through no fault of the user, overload your server because of this particular bug. And yes, it's now fixed.
Yep. Let's go ahead and go back up top. I think we've covered all the ones that we need to do. Yeah. Let me check your other notes. Have you been keeping track of your notes?
Reasonably so. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Let's look at some of the changes since 426. So 427 on through this week was 432?
Correct. Right.
432.
So in the last 6 weeks, there have been these changes where we made selected changes to do a backport.
Okay. So show form validation results for form elements that are initially hidden.
Yeah, and the reason why we would care about that is the hinted there, regression in 2.355.
Right.
So we don't like regressions, and very grateful to Daniel Beck for fixing this one, finding it, understanding it. Not a super frequent thing that a form validation failure message for something that was previously hidden, but really it's a good thing to have fixed, and deeply grateful to Daniel for fixing it.
Notice these top 6 are all big bugs.
Right.
Not little bugs, big bugs.
Right.
This one right here caught my eye. Adding proxy support for remoting. Jenkins is how old?
Right. Well, and how long has this proxy failure to work with? Now, I'm not a big fan of proxies, Darren. I apologize for being, but I think proxies are evil, and corporations should stop using them. But that doesn't change.
How do you really feel, Mark?
Yeah, you heard me, right?
Okay.
But corporations use them whether I like it or not, right? Whether I think proxies are a bad idea or not, corporations use them for various defensive measures or for various policy reasons. And getting through a proxy for remoting has been a long time thing you just couldn't do. So you couldn't put an agent on one side of a proxy and the controller on the other.
But now you can.
You can now, right?
Okay. add telemetry for Jenkins uptime. Are you telling me as I'm going to be sending you all this data of how long my Jenkins controller's been online?
It's not actually a lot of data, but yes, you are. What Daniel Beck found was that we were getting some data from the telemetry that made us wonder a little bit more about it. And Jenkins has a telemetry system that allows us to clarify things, to ask questions of users for a temporary period. And that's what this telemetry collection will do, is it's going to gather and report back to the Jenkins telemetry system how long your controller has been up. And we'll use that. Now, this will be turned off, if I remember right, I think it's like a 3-month period. This will be turned off after not too long. And the data will then be used to decide how should we handle this better or worse.
Okay. This next one, upgrading Windstone from 6.12 to 6.14, which is really upgrading Jetty from 15 to 17.
Correct.
That's the purpose of that. Pair this one with the very bottom one, update Snake YAML to 2.2. The real reason for the Windstone above is at the end with the Snake YAML to silence the security scanners.
Correct. Right. So it's far, and this is a matter for the Jenkins maintainers and their own good health. It's far easier for us to upgrade a component to a new version and silence security scanners than it is to repeatedly describe to users why the security scanner is telling them something they should ignore.
Spreadsheets, y'all. That's what it's all about. Security and spreadsheets.
Security scanners are a real thing, right? They are. And saying that we're going to ignore them or act like they shouldn't exist is just denial.
Let's not be in denial about that.
Right.
Anything else you want to call out specifically in these changes? I think those covered.
We've
Actually, no,
covered
this
the
one,
things.
I did want to cover this one here. If you are using Kubernetes agents, adding a sleep when no reconnect is not specified. That was important. I got burned by that one once.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, and I'm a little surprised. I think there's also a fix in here that there were some paths through certain of the plugins, it may have been Kubernetes, where in some conditions it would fail to do a retry. And that's been fixed in this remoting change. But I'd have to do some more research to be sure I got that.
Yep. Okay. I think we've covered all the... Actually, let's go back over to the upgrade notes, because we were sort of going in and out with the upgrade notes.
Right.
Let's just double check everything. Java 21.
Yeah.
Prototype.
Yep.
Oh, appearance system. We didn't talk about this.
Right. So, and this one's if you manage your system configuration with Jenkins configuration as code, and you had stored a configuration that defined your themes, so you'd installed the theme manager plugin and one of the theme plugins like dark theme or login theme, you then had configured that with configuration as code. When you upgrade here, your configuration as code needs a change before your Jenkins controller will successfully start. You need to move those entries from the unclassified stanza to a new stanza called appearance.
Yep. And you just should not rename unclassified to appearance.
Oh, no, please don't, no. Only these components need to go into appearance, not all of the things in unclassified. Correct.
Yeah, okay. We talked about remoting, TreeView, we sort of glossed over System 5, and then the end of support for RHEL 7 and all of its family.
Okay, since we're here on RHEL 7, I've got to one more time say, please, if you're running on Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 or CentOS 7 or Oracle Linux 7 or Scientific Linux 7, any one of those, please get onto another operating system. Do whatever it takes. You don't want to be an operating system that doesn't have vendor support for security fixes.
Not necessarily a different operating system, but a different version of the operating system. You can stay in those. Just get to 8 or 9. Get off of 7.
Fair point. If you like Red Hat, you're welcome to stay with Red Hat. And 8 and 9 are both excellent operating systems. Choose one and stay with it.
Yes, that's true. I was getting ready to mix metaphors, and I'm not going to do that now. Okay. So anything else? Let's double check all of our notes. We did that. Let's I sort of glossed over some of the UI improvements. Did we cover enough of the UI improvements?
I think we covered. Yeah, there are certainly more UI improvements in there, but I think it's a good show.
Yeah, I until you dig in and look at them, you're not going to see these changes. You might, oh wait, I remember that being different. Now it's this, and it's like, oh, okay, no big deal. All right, so with all of that in mind, dot 2. Let me go look up my notes again here because I wrote down. I actually know when we're doing our show next because we've already scheduled it. The next show is going to be December 14th at the same time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 p.m. CET. That means that the release is on December 13th.
Right.
That's a Wednesday. That's dot 2. Now here's dot 3. That I didn't write down, Mark. I hope you have the date. It's not going to be 4 weeks. So 4 weeks from today is going to be December 14th.
Right.
Can't believe that. But then it's going to be 6 weeks before the next release. So this is and that's also the reason why I was asking you, had we done the math for 17 being minimum?
We have done the math, and next release will be January 20. The dot 3 release will be January 24. So we will be January 25 when we do our broadcast.
Okay. So 25.
Yeah,
what does this mean?
The Jenkins project is taking a 2-week break.
2-week break.
2-week break at the end of the year. Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's on break, the key phrase being everybody, but a good majority will be. And that way you're not chasing down. Now, what if there's a 0 day, Mark? What will happen?
Well, it'll be like 2021 when we had a 0 day in early December. And we'll hate it, but we'll deal with it.
We'll deal with it.
It's a community.
Well, that's the key part.
People will deal with it.
Exactly. It's just, we'll deal with it.
We will resent the people who disclose the 0 day during our holidays, but resentment is not the same as not doing the work necessary.
Correct. Because we know that everybody on December 26th is going to be in the office upgrading all the stuff because everybody else is off. It's the only time that things can work, right? The days of old that continue going on. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool. Robert, thanks. Got a notification for this video on my YouTube account. Glad I got notified. Mobile dev here, managing Jenkins mobile pipelines for Android and iOS.
That's great. Thank you, Robert. Great to have
Very
you
cool.
here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for being here. I believe that's it. So again, we'll be back in 4 weeks. No big deal. But then January, it's going to be 2 weeks beyond.
Right. So 6 weeks.
Yes.
Six
weeks.
There we go. 6. 4 plus 2.
4 plus 2. So we've got 4s, we've got 2s, and we've got 6s.
Yep.
Are we doing like a PBS show where we're teaching people to count? Is that what we're doing?
That's not the game here.
Okay. Got it. One more thanks again for the show, and have a nice holiday. And that's the key point. If you are in the U.S., get ready for Thanksgiving. Get ready to eat way too much food and watch maybe too much football. I will probably be doing neither this year. That's okay though.
Seriously?
Okay. Remember, we're empty nesters now, so we'll probably do what we did last year. Shh, don't tell anybody. I'll tell you, Mark. We went to Golden Corral last year for Thanksgiving dinner, actually at like 10 in the morning, and it was great. It was packed, and everybody was eating turkey at 10 in the morning. And then I just came back home and went to sleep. It was no cleanup, no nothing.
I have grandkids coming to my house, and they're going to stay the weekend. So we are going to have a blast, but I expect to be thoroughly exhausted by the end of that week.
And more importantly, because I won't say where you live, but I will say that you do live in Colorado, right? That's broad enough.
Right.
How much snow have you gotten already?
So we got a few inches already, but we're back to seasonal weather again. So, but by then we'll probably have inches. So it's winter. What do you know? Winter
Grandkids,
happens.
throw them outside. That's all you need to do.
Let them play, and they'll have a great time romping and stomping.
Absolutely. So everybody, thanks for being here. We will see you again before the next round of holidays start. And then we'll hopefully take a holiday as well. We'll see how that goes. So thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your week. And again, if you're in the U.S., have a great Thanksgiving. And we'll talk to you again in, what did I say, 4 weeks. Can I do the math again? Is it 4 weeks? It's 4 weeks. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.